All right. How's it going, everyone? So we are coming at you live today at the Mans Bugatti circuit. And we're going to be racing a Mercedes AMG GT3 for a 25-lap race around the Mans Bugatti short circuit. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. My name is Marco Going Fast. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to invite you to like, subscribe, follow on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Marco Going Fast, Marco with a K. So we're just in the lobby here, about to jump into this race. Now it's a 25-lap race around the shorter Le Mans Bugatti circuit, more of a Grand Prix circuit than the original Le Mans circuit. So it should be lots of fun. We are currently qualified 4th on the grid of, let's see how many people, on a grid of 22, all GT3. So hopefully everybody will manage to play nice, and hopefully we can have nice things here. But we'll see. It's a pretty intense first couple corners, especially into that long, sort of mid-high speed right-hander after the starting chicane. So we'll have to see how the grid handles that one, but hopefully we can get up and away and hopefully break off from the rest of the midfield and the rear end here of our grid, and create some space if at all possible. So get ready to go here. Now, this is a pit stop required session. Let me just check. Okay, weather is looking good. It's going to be a 25-lap race from a standing start with a mandatory pit stop. And our pit strategy right now is about 15. We're starting the race with about 15 laps of fuel on the car. And we'll pit in around lap 15 and get an extra 12 laps. That should be, give us enough latitude in case we have to pit just a little early. And off the line. Just gonna adjust the microphone a little bit there. A little more room. Alright. So it seems that the leaders here have gotten a pretty good start. The four of us here, like I said, avoiding as much drama as anybody could expect here in the first couple of corners. And up the inside to take the number 2 spot. Now, I can't yet. Okay, so going through our first set of time gates there, it looks like just over a second now gap between the leader and myself. So I'm going to shut up here for a second and see if we can't close that gap. See if I can give it a little more concentration. Get him really sideways around that right long right-hander. Double apex on that. Alright, and so we go straight into someone here, I assume the second place car, trying to come back on the line, pulling a little bit of a Sebastian Vettel on that one. Except we did make contact both back in and before. So getting back into the groove of things here as we round out our opening lap here at the Le Mans Bugatti circuit. Clipping that chicane as much as we can. Powering out on the exit. Now this is a little bit of a bigger sort of Grand Prix style circuit, so it does still have those Le Mans characteristics, very high speed, especially for these GT3 cars here. Of course, sharing the start-finish straight, as well as the first opening chicane with the Le Mans full circuit, 24-hour circuit. And this circuit really sort of, and
we've got some pressure coming from behind.
we've racked up about 2 seconds worth of penalties here, and I'm not sure why. It says for exceeding track limits, but I don't think we've really cut too many corners or anything like that, so remains to be seen. Maybe it doesn't like us using the rumble strips, especially that first rumble strip, the super flat one, going into the first right-hand corner after the straight. Although everybody cuts that, so. And there we are, off track. Right as I say it. Never speak too soon. But that's okay. Now let's see if we can maintain the podium position here. Cutting a little bit off of the inside and just fighting him off there. We've got the throttle on him coming out of the corner there. Seems like our car might have a little more power than his R8. And going all kinds of wide, getting hit in the back and spinning out. So we're down to 6th place from a start of 4th. So let's see if we can't catch up with the rest of these guys here in the pack. Oh, catching on the curb there, and that's going to spin us out. Make sure we get off track here. Give these guys some room. And they didn't give themselves enough room. So that puts us into 5th place. Quite a lot of drama in, I think, 3 separate incidents right there within a span of about 6 seconds going into that corner. And my brain is stuck on the Le Mans 24-hour circuit, and it just wants to go. My hands do not follow, unfortunately, the Bugatti circuit that we are racing today. So that's going to cost me, wow, a good 4 places there, as we find ourselves behind a 650S overtaking the R8 that I think almost crashed us out a little bit ago, or at least the same livery as the one that almost crashed us out a little bit ago. Now, all hope is not lost. I will say that as we go back into the back of the R8 just a little bit, the grouping between the 6th and 9th place cars, rather should I say, is looking a lot tighter than one would expect. Porsche brake checking me there, either that or he's just got not so highly developed sense of speed. Let's say maybe his field of view is off. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt there. As we take 3rd into the wide corner, keeping it as tidy as we can, downshifting into 2nd and trying to pull off on this Audi, coming up around the outside of it, having to run a little bit wide off the track to make sure that he doesn't hit us, and we run off the track to begin with. So the game didn't like that very much, and it's going to make me give him the position back as we come right back out into the track on his tail. So not going as well for us as we'd have hoped in qualifying at least, but we shall see how the rest of this one goes. As we're on his tail here, hunting him down, trying to take as smooth lines as we can in, upshifting a little early there, and bringing it inside as he goes wide. Not quite able to get the drop on him there. Went down probably a little too low of a gear. Gotta watch my gears here.
That is your fastest first sector time. Keep it up.
Oh wow, well, fastest first sector time, so gotta be doing something right. So the split between 7, 8, and 9 is about identical between the two sets of cars here, as I'm fighting off the McLaren behind me, and the Audi is fighting off the Mercedes that I'm driving. Taking him on the inside here.
Good job. Keep it up.
Braking heavily and running wide still. Oh, and going right into him. The McLaren barely misses us. Wow. Sorry, Audi. Alright, now we're going to drop it down into 2nd for the second part of this chicane. That's the tricky part about this track, is there's so many just high contrast corners from one to the next. You'll have a high speed sweeping right-hander, and then you'll have a set of chicanes, or you'll have some very fast chicanes and then some very slow chicanes. You know, you really have to kind of stay on top of every corner here as we throw it in and brake hard into the first set of chicanes, and that spins us out. Not necessarily the race that we were hoping for here, and I guess that proves that with a longer race like this, it really is all about your endurance and just taking it smoothly, making sure everything's going right. And we're off. Not my day today. Great day for qualifying, which is actually the opposite of how it is. Usually I'm qualifying pretty bad, and then I'll make up a good 5 or 10 spots in the race, but I guess the pressure of the midfield is getting to my head. I don't know. As we come towards the back, double apex, squared off corner here. I'm missing the second apex completely, hitting the first one pretty decently. Powering out on the exit as much as we can. So we've got the 11th car in our sights here. See if we can't start to close that gap. Maybe have some hopes of catching up and having a contention at a top 10 spot after that. But of course, if we can't catch the 11 car, then a top 10 spot is not something that's going to happen either way. So one thing at a time here. The gap is closing. We're only about a second behind him, and everything changes at that corner as we both go squirrely. And I managed to hold it. He didn't. Went off track, and I am taking advantage of his misfortune as I thrust up into 11th of the grid of now 18. We've lost 4. Have to pay respects for our fallen brethren who rage quit at the sight of their position. Now, I've lost a good 7 spots in this race so far, and if I'm not rage quitting by now, I think we've all got it in us to stick it out to the end, because finishing is half the battle. Am I right? All right, so
Awesome in the first sector.
braking, try to take as wide an entry into this as you can so that you can take the shallower power out. And that worked out pretty well. Carried a lot of speed through. Back to the weird squared off bit as we missed the first apex and we missed the second apex. However, we could have taken a tidier line, could have been probably a little quicker through there. We did manage to keep it stable and get a good exit out, so that is what matters there. Braking hard, sliding a bit, just the right amount it seems, and powering out towards the next third gear corner here, and down to second. Really struggling here. It's one of those tracks you really got to be kind of surgical and focus. Definitely a good exercise for streaming, commentating whilst driving a track like this, which you really have to be in the zone for. So we've got the car behind in the pits, half the grid with penalties here, time penalties, and I'd say it's starting to sound like a Le Mans race already. Taking the chicane, not too bad there, a little bit of sliding but not too much drama, and make sure that we brake in for this long third gear corner here. Try to keep that one as close to the apex as possible. Obviously I like to go wide because it's always a battle trying to keep that speed that you get going in, make sure that you get a good exit too. Take one off of one end and the other end pops up, sort of like a seesaw, teeter-totter sort of effect there. Braking for the square, that's what we're going to call it here, the square. And a decent exit out. Could have probably gotten a better exit if I'd taken it in a little slower, but sort of a mental thing, you know, trying to make up so many spots. You really got to convince yourself that slower in, faster out equals faster to begin with overall. So slower and faster out equals faster overall. As we overcook it on that one and spin out into the sand, into the grass. And we get a warning from the race director. Race director's not liking me very much at this point, I think. And our race is looking nothing like our qualifying runs. I was really having trouble here with the extra fuel load to find that control. You can really feel the difference in the car. But with each successive lap, our fuel load is decreasing. So hopefully we can find some time here in the middle of the race. And yellow flag here as we come up on a back marker that's flipped over on his roof. So I wonder, oh okay, yeah, there he goes. I'd kind of like to see a racing game, speaking of realism in Sims, I'd kind of like to see off the track we go. Kind of like to see me keep it on the tarmac. But no, I'd kind of like to see a sim where if there's a crash, and there's a yellow flag, it's a true yellow flag, and the safety car comes out, and you know, there's a ground crew that has to retrieve the car with their various cranes and Baku trucks and whatnot. I think that'd be really cool. At a definitely a level of immersion into the game, and that becomes a big factor in a lot of races, is the de facto safety car reset, as it were. So trying to carry as much speed as we can through here, through this chicane. In third going in, third going out that time. And the next chicane, can't tend to pull off the third on each. So we're going third in, and we're going to drop down to second for the exit, just to make sure we have all of that power at our disposal. And back down to second for the second squared off bit of the track, as we get another 1 second time penalty for exceeding track limits. So I think maybe that's where it really doesn't like us going wide, is on that second square there as we take it out. Sort of some confusing curb layouts there that I like to cut over. Probably should keep it a little more tidy, so we'll take note. As we throw it into the first chicane. Now, I don't know if it's just the pit stops that are adding to the effect, but it looks like a top 10 finish is within our sights here at least. Now, of course, I do have to still pit, and there's another 1 second time penalty, so we're up to 5 seconds of penalty now. So we're going to see how that's going to factor in at the end of our race, but decent power on exit there, as we carry that speed all the way through the corner. Braking heavily down to second for the square and clipping that second apex. Really getting to know that corner there. Taking the back straight up and to the chicane. Throw it in third and power out. There we go. There we go. Starting to gain some consistency here, normalize our lap times a little bit. The race starting to resemble a little bit more closely what our qualifying runs look like, as we lose the fuel load. And see, there are those curves that I like to tend to cut on the outside, and running wide there. Definitely want to turn in a little earlier. Maybe utilize the brake a little more on entry into that second corner there, that second right-hander. Running wide, almost off the track. That's sort of how you're supposed to do it there on the first corner here at Le Mans. And powering straight out of that chicane. Not a bad setup there for us. In 10th place of the grid, that has dropped down to 17 now, and we seem to be running wide pretty consistently in that corner. I do remember taking that corner in third pretty repeatedly, quite vividly in my memory. So maybe we should start dropping it down to second, especially with a little bit more of a fuel load. I think I started qualifying with a 7-liter fuel load, and right now, after 10 laps of race, I am at a 13-liter fuel load. So definitely a difference in feel of the car. Car feels a little more sluggish, definitely around corners, definitely not as responsive. really got to kind of guide it as opposed to drive it actively, should we say. But adaptations being made as we close in on a group of 3 here around the chicane, really throwing it in there, starting to gain a little bit more of that qualifying spice back into the car, taking it a little slower on entry there so I don't go wide, and I still overcook it just a little bit, but that is okay because not too much drama. And even then, we set our best lap of the race. So let's see if we can't reset a best lap of the race as we run off into the alternate pit exit and almost take out this Huracan. I'm going to let him by. I'm getting a blue flag here, so I guess I'm a black marker to him. My apologies to the first place car there. Did not see him coming up on my mini-map or on my mirror until he was pretty much there. So I guess that's why he's in first place. Speedy is right. And he's taking an excellent line through that corner. Let's see if we can keep up with him here. And by default, hopefully we'll find a little bit better of a pace. So the Mercedes seems to like to run a fair bit wider than his Huracan is there. His Huracan taking a steeper in, steeper out sort of line. Really using all of the track.
Fastest second sector. Great driving.
And as I set my fastest second sector, but obviously because of the run wide at the beginning of the lap there, far from my fastest lap. And we're sort of slinky ping-ponging back and forth here. As the Huracan pulls away from me, and then I pull back, and sort of playing cat and mouse a little bit, so it's a good sign. We're sort of keeping up the pace. We've still got about 3 more laps left until pit. I'm going to try to make these 9 liters last as long as I can as we come up on the grouping of 3 here, including the 9th place car, so we are finding that pace. Either that or the 9th place car had an incident. And it looks like that might be the case as he closes up that gap there. So let's see if we can't catch up to him and maybe bring the pain. Decent exit there. Definitely putting on the pressure. As he runs up the inside and really just keeping the pressure on him there. Matter of feet that separate his car from mine. And it looks like we might just have the power advantage here on the straight. Now it's going to be difficult breaking into this corner here and keeping that. We managed to ward him off at least for that corner. So let's hopefully increase this gap and keep that pace up in the positive deltas. Running way wide on exit there, but that's okay, using up all the track. Sure made us slightly faster. And clipping both apexes here, almost. Running a little wide on exit. Starting to get that corner a little better down then. And half a second faster than our fastest lap there as we come up to a back marker of our own. So that is a good sign, I'd say, when you start seeing back markers, especially when you think you're not doing too well in the race. So it gives you a little bit of an ego boost, and hopefully somebody that, well, you should be able to overtake, otherwise you're in trouble. That provides sort of the same thing there as we run super wide and we're directly in front of his line, but we do manage to pull away here on the straight. And in second, trying to get as close as we can here as we get a 1 second penalty for exceeding track limits. And once again, I don't know where that came from because I really did not, but whatever. Anyway, taking it a little wide there on the square, but ultimately, not a bad move. Trying to close in on the 8th place car here. Now my fear is that these guys have already pit, and I hope that they haven't. I hope that this gap has just been closed organically because of good driving and not because they had a couple second long pit stop. So hopefully we'll be able to pit sometime around each other and not lose too much time refueling, which I must say is painfully slow in this game. Alright. And taking that corner way better with another car in front of us now, as we start to find the pace that we sort of lacked at the beginning of the race, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue that once we have a more substantial fuel load as well. Because if not, we might be in trouble here. Oh, as he brake checks me. Pops his spoiler right off. So overtaking him shouldn't really be much of a problem now. Just a little love tap though, unavoidable, unfortunately. As he's really taking the widest lines possible, and we take him up the inside here. Just doesn't have the downforce to hold it.
That's P8. Good job. You're moving up the order.
And back into 8th here. Now we've got another front marker that's coming past by him too that we've got to let pass here. And our tires are starting to feel it, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm starting to feel the tires feeling it, so. Dropping it down to 2nd, getting a little more throttle control there, a little more fine-tuned RPM response for the power range that we're operating in currently, and I'm getting the blue flag, so I gotta let this guy by. I'm gonna take the inside line here, and hopefully he'll be able to catch up and pass, but yeah, it doesn't look like he's catching up in time, so I'm gonna go back outside, hopefully try to conserve my pace. Now, I've only got about a lap or so left of fuel in the car, so we are on our 15th lap here, gonna have to bring it into the pits soon, and I'm gonna let him buy up the inside into the long right-hander.
Hit confirm, we got that, we'll go.
So, requesting the pit stop here from the steering wheel button. So we'll be able to go in at the end of this lap. Great line through that corner. Only about 2 liters left of fuel. So really cutting it close, but hey, that's getting the most pace we can out of this light fuel load that we have. Bringing it up the back straight. Brake, 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 brake.
You're low on fuel.
For the chicane. And my crew chief finds it necessary to let me know that I'm low on fuel right after I requested the pit stop because I was low on fuel. So hopefully that means that they know to put fuel into the car. And we're gonna take the pit lane entry. Actually, oh yes we are. We got to do it. Oh, and we spin. So see, proof that decisiveness is not good. Closing in on the 6th and 7th place car there, and thinking that maybe if I could just stay out one more lap, we might be able to take on those guys and enter the pits in front of them. But not gonna happen here. Chances are they have already pit. So that's okay, hopefully we haven't wasted too much time. And our fuel load going up to, it's about 22, 24, 26, almost 30 liters.
Away you go.
So almost a 12-second pit stop, not too bad, not too much drama there, but back into 10th place. So got 9 laps left. A lot can happen in 9 laps. But I'm hoping, so we do manage to get out of the pits before the 11th place car. Hopefully we're not speaking too soon here. Yeah, no, I think we've got it. I think we're safe. As long as we don't screw this one up. And decent exit there. Getting a little sideways on the entrance, but that's okay. All worked out in the end. And really just trying to keep it as close to that line as I can here on this corner. Definitely do not want to go wide like I was earlier in the race. Definitely can feel the difference though in fuel load. So that seems to be a bit of a factor around this track, especially with the longer
You're
lap
one lap down on the leader.
count. And coming up onto the back square here. Decent power out. Into the back straight. And brake, 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 brake. Alright. Managed to keep most of our speed that we brought into the corner on the way out of the corner. So not bad, keeping it nice and tidy through there, dropping it down into second and power out. Very nice actually compared to earlier in the race, especially with the higher fuel load. So I guess that that higher fuel load really got to me after qualifying. Now it should be noted that I'm only now just sort of figuring out the whole setup thing here in Project Cars 2. So only now am I actually having different setups for qualifying and race. So definitely getting used to that fuel load difference, difference in duct opening and downforce as a result of that, and turbo pressure. It's a little bit of a different experience there. So I guess especially one of my better qualifying there. Alright, so fastest first sector, I managed to shave off about a half a second for my lap time. And really not driving too bad of lines here, especially considering the condition of our tires. Just really got to watch those braking zones, make sure that we don't run wide, because braking mid-corner isn't going to do a whole lot with the traction that we've got. But yeah, it seems as though I'm starting to figure out where those zones are and how the low brake, or the low, let's say the decreasing tire life is starting to affect and be affected by that. Dropping it down into second for that one. And giving it a little tap on the brakes there just to pitch our nose in ever so slightly. There we go, making sure we don't run wide on the exits of that corner, something that we seem to fall victim to there, and that is that's 2.2 seconds faster than our fastest lap time, so setting a new personal best for the race, throwing it into that first corner and braking for the chicane. You know, this really isn't a bad track. I really do like this track. I think it's very dynamic. It's a lot of fun to drive, I'll tell you that. It's a little difficult to drive, and that's kind of why it's a lot of fun to drive, because it's difficult not to, not die so much as to get right, to do fast. And 2-second time penalty for exceeding track limits, and we get our first warning, and I do not know what track limit we seem to exceeded there, because it's really just not having it today. I guess the stewards have placed some bets against us, and maybe they need to even out the odds, because wow, I mean, some of these penalties just are coming out of left field. That brings us up to 9 seconds time penalty. Now there's only a gap of about a second between myself and the 11th place car here, so we might not be able to achieve the top 10 finish that we hoped, especially not going wide onto the grass like that and spinning out, and there goes 10th place. Oh, 9th place as it were. I guess some more of our comrades here have dropped out, but that's how it goes. Now, myself, personally, I'm trying to improve my driver rating. I know probably you can't tell by watching, but so my main goal here is to make it to the end of the race with as little incidents as possible. Oh, and so we do manage to benefit slightly from a pit stop here. Late strategy, as this guy really taking his sweet time coming back out onto the track here. So overtaking him shouldn't be too hard, as I say, as we go around the outside of him, and then he goes right back up the inside. Ugh, really getting loose on the outside there now, starting to turn into more of a Formula Drift lap than a GT3 mini, I guess we could call it a mini endurance. Well, I guess maybe it doesn't count as an endurance race if you don't switch drivers, but not sure if that's the qualifier or not, but definitely longer than your average run here. Trying to bring it up on the inside here, the outside, I guess. It's about to be the outside, which puts him into the awkward position of hopefully not punting us off the track, as we almost punt ourselves off the track, but we managed to hold it, and that gives him just enough time to bring it back up around the inside. So currently in a battle for 9th place. Not that it really matters, because even if I finish 9th, I'd still be finishing 11th with the time penalties I have, but it seems this guy, as well as the guy behind me, have managed to avoid any time penalties this race, which, beyond me. I don't know how you could possibly do that. I've gotten time penalties for things I didn't even do in this race, so... not to say that I haven't gone wide. I've gone wide quite a bit, but I think I've earned about maybe 6 seconds of that 9 seconds of penalties I have up there, so... really feeling the pressure from him there, and unfortunately folding under it. But I didn't necessarily power through that like a corner cut, so definitely feeling the age of these tires, though, I'll tell you that. Trying to take as wide of a line as we can into that one, and pushing it wide out all the way to the edge of the track. Decent exit there as we start to widen the gap behind just ever so slightly, and got a back marker 2 cars back, so here's hoping that the back marker and the guy behind will cause an incident that the guy behind him will have to deal with. I'm thinking that's probably about the only way that I'll end up getting that top 10 finish that I was looking for, and definitely neglecting the brakes there, but running what I would say is a fair re-entry regardless. And avoiding a spoiler that's found itself into the middle of the track, and we get another 1 second time penalty for exceeding track limits, up to 10 seconds now. And with the car behind at a 4-second deficit, it is starting to look a little bit better for me in the penalty department, even though that number is growing. So is the gap, so let's hope, and not anymore. This is a heck of a race, I'll tell you that. Definitely giving me a run for my money to make it into this top 10 here, and I don't know if it'll be possible, to be honest. Back marker closing the gap now up to my tail, dropping it down into second and taking quite a nice little line through that corner there. Hopefully I found a little bit of time there, and got some. Okay, so the 8th and 7th and 6th place, it looks like, are directly in front of us here. Maybe we can bring the gap in a little bit and see if we can't win it on the track, if not in the books. Taking quite a liberal line there. Again, not liking that at all. But definitely well within the 2 wheels on the rumble strip limits as defined by the FIA. And the number 8 car going into the pits, so maybe that's one more place up for us, and who knows, that one place might just be enough as we take 8th place, a position that we were in about a minute into the race that has now taken us about 22 laps to make up.
They're giving you the blue flag, let them pass.
And blue flag for the McLaren behind me, trying to stay off the track there, seeing as I ran wide. Figured might as well let him pass. For the 3rd place McLaren, and taking quite an earlier apex than him, and it is showing, as is the age of my tires. Wow. Really feeling it now. Maybe should have switched those out as well in the pit stop. I will say the tires probably would have only added about 5 or 6 seconds maybe at the worst to our time, so pit stop wise, to our pit stop time. But you know, I think we would have saved about 5 or 6 seconds here in the race. However, it does look like we might be able to pull off this top 10 finish, so hopefully we're not speaking too soon here. But we've got a 5-second gap between us and the car behind, which would put us into 9th, and it looks like they've got a pretty decent gap between them and the car behind them, so I'm hoping that it's at least a 5-second gap as well, so I can bring it to that 10-second mark there that we need to shoot for to remain in 10th. You know what? No, even that would put us into 9th. So, oh no, that would put us into 10th. So either way, it looks like we're gonna grab our top 10 finish here, as long as there's not a car within a second or two of the car 2 spots back from us. So here's hoping. 2 points. 2 points scorage, which there's no points here, but you know, it's more of a figurative thing. Bragging rights, I suppose, if nothing else. So somehow the gap between myself and the guy behind has grown to 6 seconds. So I've got to imagine that his tires are looking just about as bad as mine. And it looks like the gap between him and the guy behind him is definitely, which would be the 9th and 10th place cars, is definitely also closing. So I think I might have to contend with the 10th place car more than I do with the 9th place car when all is said and done. However, we do only have 2 laps left here in the race, so who's to say what will happen in the next 2 laps, running wide on the exit to that corner there, but keeping it tidy as we power through. Really trying every trick in the book to pitch our nose in as much as we can here, because our tires sure aren't doing it of their own accord via the steering wheel, should I say. As we power across the line, going into our 24th lap of 25. Let's try to make these last 2 as pretty as we can, considering the circumstances. Our tires are really feeling it now. Under braking, under turning, you can feel it everywhere. They just feel like sort of giant blobs of jello, I guess is an accurate descriptor. Jello jigglers, for that matter. Slow jello. Jello jigglers, of course, being the thickest and slowest of all of the jello variants, at least that I'm aware of. If you know of any that are thicker and slower, be my guest. Not sure what I invited there though, so maybe I'll come to regret that, but be nice. Anyway, throwing it in. Really struggling there through the square. And we've got 2 minutes on the dot to finish this race as we run off into the grass. 2 minutes on the dot to finish this lap and put another in. And I do not think that that's going to happen here, but either way, I think it'll just extrapolate our time to whatever it would be based on computer estimation. I don't know how it works. Maybe I'll be able to get in front of the 7th place guy here. And, well, you know, granted that my position is going to be based more on time penalties than on actual position. I'm not sure that that would make much of a difference, but... And there's our 25th lap, so... Wow. That was a journey. And 55 minutes later. So, about an hour-long race there, guys, ending in... Well, let's see if the penalty's applied, and I don't believe it has, because it's putting me in 8th place right now. So the guy behind me's finished. Let's see. Yeah, you know, I really don't know, I'm going to be honest. But we are on our cooldown lap here, on lap 24 of 25. But it's already given us the cooldown because I believe it's because that countdown there has started. So yeah, so there we go. So we end up finishing in 8th place, I guess. Wow, not bad. I'll take it. Yeah. So halfway decent. Our total time there was a 43 minute on the dot. 43 and about a half a second over. So yeah, not too bad. And I assume that is with the 10-second time penalty. Otherwise, it would put us in a different position here on the outset. So let's hope. But either way, not too bad. I think that's gonna wrap up this stream, guys. It's been a journey on this race alone, but a fun one. I will say that. Definitely learned a lot. Dropping down from 4th place in qualifying to 8th place in the race. Better result than I suppose not that I expected, not that I hoped for, but that I expected after a lap or two of the race, knowing what I knew then. And it looks like that raised up our experience rating just slightly to E1408. So we are trying to raise our license. Hopefully we'll be able to get to a D license soon. Seeing this E license now, I'm pretty happy, I will say, because I think as recently as a day or two ago I was on an F license, which was definitely a struggle to get out of. So glad to see the E there. I'll take it for now, and hoping to work my way back up to, well, work my way up to D, C, B, A, S. Is there an S? I think there's an S. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Marco of Marco Going Fast. Find us on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Marco Going Fast, Marco with a K. And I appreciate you guys spending the last 45 minutes of both of our lives watching this Goliath of a race in Project Cars 2. Thanks so much for hanging out. See you guys next time.